where I go over all the gigs and just kind of the story of my year. Just kind of a recap, just for my own personal records. No comments, please. No discussion. And I figured there might be a captive audience out there, who knows, in America because of the weather. Everybody's trapped in this kind of polar vortex situation, whatever the hell. I don't know what they're calling it in the media, the weather channel that controls the weather channel. The CIA and Russia. Apparently, Russia is sending the polar vortex down. They can control the weather. So it's freezing. I mean, the weather is like a kind of warfare and a kind of artillery and a kind of weapon. Maybe it's the most powerful weapon. I mean, think how many fucking people you could kill with an earthquake. Or a tsunami. Or a flood. The power of God. The weather is the emotions of God. The temperament of God. We are feeling it. I mean, it's been a cold winter. It just started. Winter just officially began 2 days ago, and it's been freezing. I mean, it was kind of warm maybe until about Thanksgiving, I'd say. And it's been freezing. It plummeted. And I don't think I'm gonna go live at all on Christmas, just because I be celebrating and privately with my meditation candles and I have my menorah and my lights and everything. My music, my Christmas music. It's been, I mean, I didn't want to push the Christmas thing on anybody on Monday. It seemed like the crowd was like particularly not festive. I mean, maybe that's because they were not Christians and not Goyim. They were not Gentiles. Let's just say that, which I like. Actually, the reason why I want to continue to do the open mics over the break is because I actually found it to be one of the best ones. I think because I don't know. It's like this is the best time in New York, actually, when everybody, the kind of fake New Yorkers leave. The white people, the money class or whatever. The locals are the people who stay. The true New Yorkers, the people who actually live here, stay here for the holidays. And people come into New York for the holidays, like Kevin McAllister, or people might come here to see the tree and all that kind of shit. I think that used to maybe be a part of New Yorkers' lives. Now we look at all that stuff as sort of like touristy, and that's not like cool. It's uncool to do anything like touristy, and like those things are just not really woven into our lives in the same way that, like, because we're such Brooklyn, my generation, the cultural the New York thing has just been branded and sold to us so fucking hard. And it's just it was been sold to us so hard that they had to create Brooklyn. That was like a whole real estate scheme. Like, let's get, a bunch of fucking rich people's kids living in Brooklyn, and let's just get all the real estate maxed out everywhere. And so where do you go? I don't know. Anyway, here we are, the real New Yorkers. Home for the holidays. I love Christmas in New York. To me, this is the home of Christmas. They basically invented it here. Did I say that last year? I think I did. I mean, it's so freaking cold this year. Like, last Christmas I went to Washington Square Park. And my brother and his girlfriend came for a few days. We went up to Rockefeller Center. We saw the tree. We saw the ice skating rink and shit. I haven't seen the tree this year. Maybe I should go up. I'm a walker. I walk everywhere. I barely ever get on the train. And so last winter, basically what happened was, because I knew I had another year in this place, well, the Omicron thing hit, right? It hit sometime around, probably around this time last year, I would say. My brother, speaking of which, my brother and my mom both have COVID right now in Columbus, Ohio. I hope they feel better soon, but goddamn, it sucks. On Christmas. Merry Christmas. But that's basically what happened last year. A lot of people got COVID. Like, it's amazing how it went from being this gravely serious thing that controlled our lives to like being like, oh fuck, I got the spicy flu. I heard somebody call it the spicy flu last night, and I'm like, that's not funny. 1 million people died and counting. In China, I guess it's out of control. I mean, I'm all fine with going about our business and living our lives as normal, but I wore a fucking mask. When I heard the guy say he might have the spicy flu, I put my double mask on. That's for goddamn sure. I don't think that's funny, and I'm not trying to get, I don't think it's like, oh, I better get, I heard some story about somebody got COVID in advance because they didn't want to miss some, it was like they got themselves sick so they could like, go on some trip or something they were going on. It's like, no fucking way. It is crazy that we shut down our whole society. I do have big regrets about the way I spent 2021 because it was really the opportunity for a lifetime for me. I got to move in. I've lived in this place since March 2021, believe it or not, almost 2 years. And I had money in the bank. You couldn't ask for a better setup than this. And I spent most of 2021 watching According to Jim and How I Met Your Mother and Home Improvement. I watched the Mets on TV. I loved watching Keith Hernandez and the other guy, commentators. I love watching the Mets on TV. Pix 11. Pix 11 will always be number one in New York. The greatest TV station in New York. And I just got really into the local broadcasting. WOR. All the AM radio stations are all right-wing propaganda for like old Jewish people and like commuters, I guess, bridge and tunnel people maybe. But I listened to a lot of the KCR birthday broadcasts, and Phil Schaap died while I lived here. It's hard to believe that it's been a year and a half, because that year 2021, it was literally like I Am Legend. I just spent the whole year like walking around by myself in Manhattan. I was afraid to socialize because of COVID. I was still living in a headspace that was like, I need to avoid people because I cannot get COVID at all. Even though I'd been vaccinated, and so had most everybody in New York, there was still some sense that like I did not want to get COVID. And so like I'd go to readings. I went to a lot of the readings at KGB actually, but I'd stand in the back and I'd leave immediately afterwards because I was paranoid. Thanks to Fauci. We should prosecute Fauci. That's what, never mind. I don't want to, Noel Musk. Noel Kasum. That's what he says. Prosecute Fauci on the app that he owns. Elon Musk buying Twitter. What a fucking... So anyway, Omicron happened right before Christmas. So I just basically spent, the month of January, the end of December, January, early February, completely alone. If you look at my calendar from January 2022, you will see absolutely no entries. That's what I had going on. And that was my birthday. I was like so upset. I was like, man, I want to have a birthday party. I want to have people. I was editing video. That's what I was doing. That's when I was really putting it, I was going through all these hard drives I had, because it was during the pandemic. I didn't have any of my stuff. My stuff was in storage. So that would have been a great opportunity to work on a lot of things, which I couldn't do because all my shit was in storage. My relationship really fucked my life up in a lot of ways, and it was hard to get back on track. It's taken me this long to get back on track. Really only in I'd say like August, did I get back up to like the speed that I needed to be at. So it took me, after coming back to New York and getting vaccinated, it took me basically a year and a half almost to sort of just like pick up the pieces and figure out, how to socialize with people, how to fucking what I wanted to do, how to, I forgot the open mic thing. I just like completely forgot about. I had this attitude like I'm not going to do open mics anymore. I'm above that. I need to do booked shows only. And but I was supposed to have this gig last December at Pete's Candy Store that got postponed because of Omicron. And it was going to be like my holiday show, and it was going to be like my return to the stage indoors. I was doing all these readings outdoors. I did all these readings like in Central Park and like all over the fucking place, all over Manhattan, Ground Zero. With my portable PA. But that was going to be like my holiday show. I really wanted to do a holiday show. I was feeling nostalgic. I was going to play music and like play Christmas songs and shit at Pete's Candy Store. Like, it was insane. I hadn't done any open mics or anything hardly at all, And, this was before it really occurred to me to do the stand-up comedy thing. And so what happened was, January 2022, I remember eating a lot of, they have this Mad for Chicken place. It's like Korean fried chicken. They had this lunch special. It was like $8 for like, what was it, 2 drumsticks and 2 wings, plus fries, which for this neighborhood is like insanely good, because it's like kind of a gourmet, fast casual place. So I went there a lot. I smoked weed all the time. I walked up to Times Square, bought weed from my dealer. I think $80 an ounce. I was meeting my guy on 42nd Street. I don't know, in the cold. I'd walk up there, it was like, 40 degrees or whatever. It's a lot colder this year. Last year wasn't that bad. It never got below 30 that often. It was rare last year for it to go below 30. This year it's like 14 degrees or something. I think it's going to go down to 11. So I thought I'd put out some, the content. This is a way of performance. To me, I almost get more out of this than doing an open mic. Last night I did this open mic at Music Inn, and I did my kind of doomcore comedy. I guess I'm an anti-comedian, but they made me feel like I was bombing, which I did not feel that way. They don't to me, there's a whole strain of New York kind of open mic artisanal. I wouldn't call it performance art, but it is sort of, it's people I saw at Sidewalk Cafe. There was this one stand-up comedian who would go up and just like, she just told the most embarrassing stories, and no one was really laughing. And then there was this poet who would go up and read these poems that were sort of like, he kind of had a Rollins like Gen X, like his head was shaved, but he was like he was like thick. He had a goatee. He had like a Stone Cold Steve Austin, but his readings were like very, I don't know, his stuff was just like all about the silence, and like you weren't really sure to applaud afterwards or what. So that kind of stuff, I don't know. I admire people who go on stage and just sort of like lay whatever they want down, and I mean, I was all over the place. I didn't really get my point across at all. The problem with doing these open mics is I don't have enough time. You get 5 minutes or 6 minutes or 7 minutes maybe at a stand-up thing, and like I'm trying to do these kind of long form, like oral, I'm like weaving these things together. They're it takes me 2 hours to sort of like travel from one shore to the other to really get all the content across and to make all the connections. There's a lot to say. 5 minutes, you barely even get going. You're just kind of getting your bearings and shit. I've never tried it in front of an audience. That is an experiment in a direction I'd like to move to. I'd like to be able to do just 2 hour improvised monologues in front of an actual audience. I think it'd be interesting. I think people would like it. I mean, it would be just like the live streams. Basically, what I'm trying to do with stand up. And I look at it as experimental. I thought Music In would be into it. They seem like they like weird stuff. There really were not that many people there. That was another reason why I felt kind of comfortable. There was only like probably 10 people there, if that. And it's just a cool location and an interesting environment. And I was walking out front and I run into this guy, Lloyd Floyd, who kind of looks like Lenny Kaye, or he kind of looks like, I don't know, the guy who killed Laura Palmer on Twin Peaks, whoever that guy is. I forget his name. The old denim guy. Not the one-armed man. The guy with the kind of long gray hair who looks like kind of like cool and like hillbilly maybe. But this guy was super cool. Lloyd Floyd, right? So I run in this guy, we start talking, he's really like talking about how he did open mics forever. He played open mics for 21 years and then he stopped because it got too snobby. He's like, the East Village is too snobby. They're too exclusionary. The West Village is inclusive. That's what he likes about the Music In, is they just like support anything that you do. And so Lloyd Floyd is like talking to me. I'm like, this guy's pretty cool. I saw his act. His act was great. He does all these incredible voices. He was talking about he's a voiceover artist, and he does all these video games, and like I guess he's Lego Jedi, and he's Lego. Is he Lego? He's like Lego. He plays the Joker. I think he's like a Lego Joker, and he's like a Lego Jedi. So he's like the only other person than Mark Hamill to play both the Joker and a Jedi. And how much more, 2022 could you get? Or maybe, I don't know, maybe that's peak 2017 or something, but being both a Joker and the Jedi, I think that is like the Venn diagram of like contemporary masculinity, the confused masculinity of this goddamn country. You gotta look hard for your sources. People follow the dumbest shit. The way that guys dress now, just Chris Evans. I don't think so, man. Not for me. I was thinking about it. At least Gen X, as bad as Gen X had it, like, they made great movies. They had great movie stars. Like, think about Keanu, Joaquin Phoenix. There was a lot of Gen X still. Fucking DiCaprio, Brad Pitt were still kind of living with Gen X leading men. Like, who are the millennial leading men? Is Jake Gyllenhaal millennial, I guess? Is Tobey Maguire's probably Gen X-ish? Is Andrew Garfield millennial? It seems like they just skipped over us. I didn't see any of those fucking... They went straight to Tom Holland or whoever the fucking kid is. Who's the kid who's dating Zendaya? He's the new Spider-Man. There was no independent film era for millennials other than I guess Adam Driver is the millennial leading man. Adam Driver and maybe Jonah Hill. For Christ's sakes. James Franco. All right, I don't want to get into it, but anyway, James Franco was in a Gus Van Sant movie, so I guess that counts. It's just weird how everything became prestige television, which is not really that prestigious actually, because it's just television. But it's not even television. It's like a DVR. Except it has every fucking thing in the cloud. Apparently the cloud is running out of space, so there could be a storage crisis. Speaking of storage, I mean, January 2022, because I had these huge periods of time, I wasn't going to go anywhere. I was afraid to get Omicron still. When Omicron went off, it was like this bomb that I had been sort of waiting for. The reason why I didn't do indoor performances really, or go to KGB or anything very much, or, when I did, I'd leave abruptly or stay in the back or whatever. I didn't really ingratiate or weave myself into that scene that much. There was this whole wild thing going on downtown last year, and you kind of had to be there. And I saw it. I was there. I was doing my own thing in Elizabeth Street Garden or, riding my scooter around and shit. It was a great year. It was like heaven. It was like being in the Garden of Eden, frankly. Manhattan was a Garden of Eden for that year. I wish it would. I mean, the next collapse cannot come soon enough. Bring it on. And January 22 was like a gift I gave myself. It's just like, what's the most indulgent, like, Little Nemo and Slumberland way that I can spend? It's just like, it's like a sick day. The pandemic was like skipping school. It was like faking sick for school. And, like, to be able to do that for 2 years, that was a dream come true. Absolutely. I want to prolong that, ideally, indefinitely. Skipping school was like the best times of my childhood. Just being able to stay home, guilt-free, watch TV, play video games. That's basically what I've been doing for the past 2 years. On my mom's couch first, watching YouTube constantly. I still haven't got on the YouTube, obviously. And, it's just couldn't, that's what I've been doing in New York. I mean, what could be better? The light in this apartment. And so it's a great studio to work from in a lot of different ways. Living in this space, it is kind of hard to balance because, like, you want to experience New York. You want to get out in the world. You want to be social. But you also want to spend time in this unbelievably beautiful, the lighting, the views, the light coming in the windows, the views. I have all my books, probably for like the only time in my life. I've got probably, I don't even know, 1,000 books or something here. Who the fuck knows? I've never counted them. I don't know how many books I have. So it's like you want to spend time alone reading. For some reason, I spend a lot of time watching According to Jim. Getting out of the pandemic rut was not easy. And there was just a lot of guilt and a lot of, I think watching TV and watching According to Jim reminded me of home and family. It was sort of a surrogate family. And watching How I Met Your Mother was sort of like and Seinfeld as well. I watched a lot of Seinfeld last year because it's on at 11, from 11 to midnight every night on Pix 11. So I watched it every fucking day practically for like months and months last year. Those were like surrogate lifestyle, New York experiences, rather than actually experiencing New York. I was living right in the heart of it, watching on TV. Am I going to be kicking myself for the rest of my life because of that? Should I have just dove in? I probably could have become some kind of downtown celebrity if I really had just like gone for it last year. And I was so set up to do that. And I just spent a lot of time alone. I don't know why. I loved being alone. After a year with my mom and, before that being in a relationship for a few years, like, I really wanted to be alone and I loved it. And so January 2022 was like the first time it was like, okay, I'm just like, I'm in my hut. I'm in my hermitage on the side of the mountain. And I look out my view. You can watch the video, Single Room Occupancy. My chapbook comes out of that time. Walking around Midtown, going to K-Town, walking to Times Square, seeing all the former single room occupancy hotels, and I felt like I was living that life. I felt like I had that James Schuyler Chelsea Hotel life, where just like I wake up, I can, I can stay in bed, I can sort of move at my own pace, I can smoke opium all day, be creative, draw, write my journal. But editing video, it's because I had all this time, because I had all this fucking space, it's really the first time in my life I've ever had that. And so the videos got longer. I started to include more slower, more like palaces and kingdoms of time rather than just these short little kind of like paying fealty. It felt like, okay, we're just gonna, and yeah, nothing on the calendar, no gigs. I probably didn't see anybody that entire month. And so my year really kicked off. As far as I'm concerned, New Year's is actually March 1st. It makes a lot more sense. And the way that my life has kind of like cycled the last few years is like March is really the time where things kind of begin anew. To do it in December feels like you're kind of in the middle of something. You're in the middle of this cruel, the hardest time of year. They just split it right in half. It's like, I don't know. Is that a good time to begin and end things? And I don't know. Is it a good time to party? Apparently. Everybody goes out on New Year's Eve. New Year's Eve, to be honest, is maybe my favorite holiday of the year. Is that insane? I just like that it's a party. Halloween, I feel like is a little too childish. Or it's just like the way that our generation has embraced it, I just find like really like just stupid. It's like the way that we've embraced like Marvel culture and Comic-Con and cosplay and LARPing and fantasy kind of culture. Like Halloween just seems like the ultimate kind of Comic-Con. It's the original Comic-Con. It's the original cosplay event. And that's, why is it so popular? I guess the internet makes it easier for people to get costumes. You can order any fucking piece that you want, but like, and maybe like Instagram, all of that kind of like intensifies the visual. But people our age are so into dressing up as dumbass movie characters, comic characters, doing movie makeup, dressing up like zombies. In Columbus, Ohio, one time I'm sitting on my front porch on Denison across from Goodale Park, and all these zombies start to walk by. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? It's like a zombie parade. All these lame-ass people, internet nerds. And there's a lot of them. That is the culture now. That is the mainstream culture, is like nerd culture. To be counterculture is to be anti-nerd culture. And just anti-fantasy. My fantasy is reality, and that's what this is about. This whole fucking thing. This is the Game of Thrones of the humdrum dream. Just like, this is like, I feel like I'm doing probably the most exciting thing you can do with your life as a human being who's alive right now. I don't know. I don't live necessarily on the edge as much as some people who have very exciting lives. I don't do dangerous shit, but I heard Gore Vidal say outliving your enemies is I forget how he finished it, but it's a nice thing to outlive your enemies. I thought, okay, that's kind of interesting. Gore Vidal, I was watching. He's an interesting figure, and because he's seen a lot of politics and things firsthand, and he's been involved in ways. He was at Roosevelt's inauguration, for Christ's sakes. He talks about hearing FDR say, "There's nothing to fear but fear itself." It's like, that's pretty fucking crazy that you were there to see that. Like, Jesus Christ. He says we only have one party. we have two right wings. And they're bought off by the corporations, basically, is what he says. So it was interesting. I was watching some Dick Cavett. Winter, I was just watching stuff on my projector. So the apartment is a good studio. As a videographer, as a filmmaker, I can have my cameras, my lights, everything out, my mic stands. The light coming in the windows is a great, you can't miss, right? You can't take a bad shot in this apartment. And it's just an interesting visual location in so many ways. So it's really, perfect for me as a videographer to kind of be here and just exhaust shooting it. I'd love to make a movie in this apartment, and I did, but I really wanted to make a movie last year. I didn't know anybody, it was coming back to New York after a year in Ohio and being in a relationship. It was hard to pick up where I left off. I didn't actually have a lot of my own friends at that point because I was so involved. Anyway, so I had this show, Valentine's Day at Pete's Candy Store. What could be a better showcase for Frankly Fabulous? I was trying to bring Frankly Fabulous to New York because, I don't know, I was getting encouragement online through my live stream. And I thought I was going to do the Frankly Fabulous Holiday Spectacular. If you have my sex book, you'll notice the cover of that is the flyer that I drew for the Frankly Fabulous Holiday Spectacular, which was supposed to be December 27th, 2021. The cover of my sex book. Speaking of which, I ran out of printer paper today, so I have no way to print new chapbooks. I get it, on Christmas. I ran out of printer paper. What the fuck am I supposed to do? I don't have a copy of my open mic chapbook. I gave my last copy away on Monday. Or Wednesday, rather. So I thought it got postponed. The gig got postponed from December 27th to Valentine's Day. I mean, what could be... That's why I made the sex chapbook. Because I thought it's a Valentine's Day gig, and it's a Frankly Fabulous gig. I'm going to be in character as Frankly Fabulous at Pete's Candy Store. Pete's Candy Store was really the first gig I played in New York. And really as an adult artist. As a real, I played a lot of gigs when I was younger, when I was a teenager and in my 20s. But the first time I feel like I kind of arrived in New York as an artist was at Pete's Candy Store, March 6, 2015. And so this was sort of like a self-conscious homage. I've played there a lot. We had a residency there. Wavetable played there. System Lord has not played there because I got banned, which I will go into that in a second. But this is a year in review, so I'm just kind of talking through my year. I know that's probably not exciting for anybody. This is like a notebook for me. You can listen to it or not. It's personal, so I don't know if anybody else has any interest in this. But I just want to talk through my kind of performances and just kind of... every year I keep... And I recommend people do this. My dad did this. He's a professional musician. As a kid, he keeps these kind of, pseudo leather-bound desk calendars. And you mark all your gigs in there and save them. Because it's fun to look back and it's fun to know, oh yeah, I remember when I did that. Remember when I did this gig. That, live performance is an art form in and of itself. And I think the more we can preserve it, the better. That deserves, our body of work is important. Even if it's just video, an archive, let's say. And the internet gives us a great opportunity to archive stuff. At least it does right now. They haven't really started charging for that kind of shit yet. That's the other reason why I put 5-hour-long videos on YouTube. Because they'll let you. It's a way that I can store things. I can store my life. You know, anytime I want to go back and watch my memories and relive it. And then I have evidence. You know, if I ever want to write a book about it, I have a lot of visual evidence that I can use to work from. You know, if I want to write a book about what it was like living in Bohemian fucking Park Slope in, you know, 2011 through 2018 or whatever, you know, the Brooklyn decade. I call the 2010s, to me, that was the Brooklyn decade. But it's only beginning. So that's why I made those chapbooks. I thought I'll give them, you know, give them away to the people who come to the Valentine's Day gig. I mean, that's something I started to do this year, I think, was make chapbooks specifically for the gigs. I had not really done that, I don't think. You know, I was just kind of making chapbooks. Whereas like this, a lot of the chapbooks I made this year, I put the flyer right on the cover. One, because I didn't want to draw another thing because I'm lazy. But two, because I wanted to like, you know, the chapbook is identified with that part of time. You know, the Frankly Fabulous chapbook. It was an if you want, the video's on YouTube. You can watch the whole thing. My Valentine's Day. It was sort of a precursor to the things that would happen later in its raunchiness and its kind of raw sexuality. It starts out as a music thing and it quickly falls apart and becomes just this kind of weird. This was the gig that sort of turned me on to stand-up, because afterwards there were 3 people who came. Greg Masters, my friend, the poet, the great poet who lives in the East Village, former editor of Poetry Project newsletter, and there was a lesbian couple there. They were the only people that were there. And to be honest, the weather was bad. It was a Monday night, and I promoted it online. I did the best I could. I didn't really know anybody at that point. Like I was saying, I'm coming out of this year of like solitude in New York. I really hadn't reconnected with anybody. Whoever I knew here, I had kind of burned the bridges with. So like they weren't just going to come to my gig on a Monday night in the middle of winter without me like having a mea culpa or like a conversation with them or something. And so Greg was the only person that showed up. And but I filmed it. There was a camera guy there and a sound guy. There was a camera guy filming some other fucking thing. The band that was like on after me. And he just happened to send me, he happened to film me as well. We started talking a little bit, and he sent me the file, and it was like 40 gigabytes or something, because he had shot it in like 4K. He shot it with like a Red camera. I haven't watched it, but somewhere out there, he probably deleted it, but I'd like to believe somewhere out there, there's like a Red camera version. the film, the James Cameron Avatar, no, like the IMAX, like Eddie Murphy Raw of me live on Valentine's Day. That was the vibe. It was like, I don't know, it was like an Andrew Dice Clay show. It was sexual. I humped the stage. But afterwards, Greg's like, I loved your stand-up. It was funny. People were laughing. Because I wasn't trying to do stand-up, I was just kind of going wild and just kind of grasping for anything I could do. My philosophy when I got on stage this year was just like, I'm just going to bring energy. And whatever I can do, boom. I have to do that. And that's what I did. I just like, you know. And so I ended up breaking the bass drum head there during my show. You can watch the video. I'm doing like this double, because they had 2 bass drum pedals. I'm doing like this double thing, and it's like hitting the thing. It was the front of the bass drum, so there's like a hole cut in it. And the things like start to hit against the hole, and they like chop the hole a little bit. It was not a crucial thing, but they acted like it was like an antique. It looked like a fucking like Salvation Army. It looked like the Sgt. Pepper bass drum. I thought it was like fake. I thought it was a prop. And the guitar amp was broken as well when I started playing. So I just thought all their equipment was shit and they didn't care about it. I didn't realize they tried to charge me $120 or something. I made 30 some dollars from the people who were in the audience, believe it or not. Between Greg and the lesbian couple, I made like 30 plus dollars. And I gave it all to the venue because I broke the bass drum pedal. And then they wanted more. They asked me for like 90 more dollars. It's like, go fuck yourself. So I haven't played at Pete's Candy Store since then. Well, I have. I've not officially. I haven't officially had a gig, but I've done the open mic there a bunch of times. You know, they don't even know. But I don't know. That was the only gig I had in February. It was like right at the end of the Omicron thing. So it was like, I kind of didn't want like a bunch of people to come out because I was still paranoid about that. You know, it was supposed to be super transmissible and this and that. And I mean, the COVID era, it was like I took it very seriously. Probably too seriously in retrospect. At least the second year. The first year, when Trump was president, I think it was important to just like, until the motherfucker was actually out of the White House, you know, like, all bets were off, you know, like, anything could have happened. And it did, you know, January 6th. But the second year, after everybody got vaccinated, I probably could have had more fun, I guess. But I had a great time anyway, just being alone. It was a dream. So my Pete's show, watched the video. It was funny, I think. I haven't watched it in a while. I'm sure it's very cringe. My hair was still long. At this point, I still had like a Lou Reed mullet. I was trying to do like a Lou Reed in like the late 80s. He had like a super aggressive mullet. There's like a live New York concert where he's like got a very aggressive mullet. So, I mean, it was a great way to kick off the year, just symbolically. This year of just kind of like torpid, raunchy, contorting, writhing, agonizing, tortured love. So then March, here's my calendar. You see I have a lot of Poetry Project gigs. Started filming a bunch of shit there. Look, I did, 4 different things at Poetry Project in March. Then we had, okay, so I wanted to do, it was Kerouac's 100th birthday on March 12th. And my apartment is 1 block from where he wrote On the Road. I saw this thing on the internet yesterday. This may have been AI that deepfaked this, but it was like some kind of clickbait article about whether or not your partner is a Kerouac narcissist. Which I don't really think this is a thing, but it could be. It sounded like a way of describing certain people, maybe, that we know. And it was all about, like, I don't know, thinking people are like characters in your story or something. I don't know. I don't remember the exact stuff, but I definitely clicked it. It didn't sound exactly like me. You know, the van life thing and like the transient kind of like hobo out of society thing of our generation has just been so corny. You know, Kerouac made it like cool and artistic. All these YouTube like vloggers, I don't know. Their aesthetic is not really, it's kind of corny. But anyway, you know, Kerouac was a very important writer to me the last few years, particularly during the pandemic, particularly being home in Columbus, Ohio, living with my mom. Kerouac was just about the only writer that I felt I could relate to, because I wasn't in, you know, he had, you know, a lot of his adult life, he lived with his mom in like rural fucking North Carolina or Orlando, Florida, or, you know, Northport, Long Island, or wherever the fuck it was, Freeport, I forget where, you know, just these kind of like, almost like generic American suburban almost, these kind of like ranch style houses or whatever that he bought. Maybe not ranch style, but he like bought these different houses, you know, like in these different places and live with his mom. And I'm like, during the pandemic, I'm like, I'm in the Midwest. I'm with my mom, and there was just a lot of things that played into it aesthetically. You know, my ex, jazz, San Francisco, a lot of things. You know, riding that wave, and so it felt like Kerouac was like the writer that was like there for me, and so the fact that I'm here and I'm surrounded kind of in the heart of like all this kind of like Kerouac energy. You know, I wanted to do something special for his birthday. There was this 100th birthday reading at Dixon Place with like Bob Rosenthal, who was Allen Ginsberg's assistant, and Bob Holman, and I think Noland, and a bunch of other people. But it was like, it got like really cold. It was like 17, it was like today, that day. It was like 17 degrees or something. And I don't know. For whatever reason, I wanted to celebrate privately. I didn't want to be, you know, I'm a block away from where he wrote On the Road. And so I just spent the whole day kind of like reading Kerouac, thinking about Kerouac, you know, or like that week, you know, was kind of Kerouac week. You know, as a writer, people think he's sort of a himbo or something, but there's a lot more there. Maybe it is just enabling narcissists, but, you know, what is autofiction? Writing about yourself. Kerouac was one of the, you know, especially in America. I mean, he was sort of imitating Jack London in a way. And I'm sure other people, Proust, right, Joyce. But I don't know who were the major autofiction writers in America before Jack Kerouac. I don't know. Writing about their own lives, thinly veiled. So I wanted, you know, my original idea was I wanted to do a party at my house. You know, I was trying to figure out how to be social again. Trying to, in gigs, it was like I wanted to book gigs, but like I didn't have friends. You know, I didn't have people for the gigs. So the first few months of sort of returning to live performance in venues in New York City, my plan sort of got delayed. You know, I wanted to start doing this December last year, and it got delayed until February and really March. You know, this gig on Valentine's Day kicked it off, but even that felt like everybody was deeply in hibernation. I was hibernating. That's what it was. You know, I was writing and editing video and all of that. I was getting a lot done. I was being productive. I put together the single room occupancy chapbook, and so the Kerouac chapbook with Hot and Ready in it, and the Ted Berrigan Jack Kerouac poem. That was put together specifically for this gig at